All right, good morning. So, this preacher had a 5-year-old daughter who noticed that her father was always pausing and bowing his head for a moment before he started the sermon. So one day she asks him, why? And he says, well, honey, he began, and he was all proud that she noticed, that she was aware. He said, I'm asking God to help me to preach a good sermon. And immediately she responds with, well, why doesn't he ever answer you? No. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about body talk. By body, in the science of mind, Ernest Holmes says body is the level of manifestation. That physical manifestation is the last level of manifestation. That things operate in consciousness for a while before they actually appear out here in the world. Now, it's been a long while since Louise Hay, many years ago, told us that we need to love our body. Now, I would say that what I think is really important about that is that we need to speak of our body and to our body in a loving way, because science has now proved that, in fact, your body hears every word you say. Your body hears every word you say. And people say a lot of really unkind stuff to their body. And you know what? It's just no good can come from that. We just need to recognize that if you are beating up your body verbally, nothing good is going to come out of that. No good results will come. Your body will not say, oh my God, he's really critical of me. I will now be different. It's not going to work. It doesn't happen. It hasn't worked so far. So in the science of mind philosophy, there are a couple of things that I think have kind of been generalized into causing us a little bit of trouble. And it's this, and people think, oh, if somebody's sick or they have a problem with their body, they must have done some really negative thinking. Now, I am here to tell you that I have never met anybody in all my years in science of mind. Even before that, I've never met anybody who says, today I got up and I just thought to myself, I'm going to think the thoughts that are going to create cancer. Yeah, I'm going to dwell on those thoughts all day long until I have a big health episode. Nobody ever does that, okay? But in the science of mind, we also say that we are also responsible, do not hear blame, but responsible for our health. So the one true cause of everything is God within. And yet we live in a world today where we say lots of other things are in fact the power in our life. So I think it kind of comes down to a couple of things with regards to our health. Just basic stuff on earth, like, what do you eat? Now, either it's all God or it's not. But I must qualify that and say, if you want to take the metaphysical approach that, well, everything I eat, it's all God, that's great, but you need to keep your consciousness there all the time for that to actually be true for you. Right? Because if you think that Cheetos are somehow a vegetable, your consciousness better be really, really good for you to get the vegetable benefits. Are there even vegetables in Cheetos? I don't know. But I do love them, I will say, So the point is, with regards to what you eat, Emma says this. Emma says that it's all God. That it's all God. So if you're going to eat something and you have a thought about it as being bad for you, then what you need to do is you need to bless it and bless it and bless it. I mean, literally bless the hell out of it. No, really. And then you can eat it, and it will have no negative effect on you. But if you do this thing that people do, and we all know people who do this. Now, of course, nobody here, but people we know very well do this all the time. Oh, I shouldn't eat this. Oh, I shouldn't eat this. This is so bad for me. Oh, my God, this is going to go right to my stomach. Blah, 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 blah. They just say whatever they, on and on and on and on. First, I want to say, shut up, Because nobody really wants to hear that, Either eat it or don't, but shut up about it, whatever you do, okay? I'm sorry. But if you're going to eat it, bless it so that it could really do you some good. Now, Ernest Holmes says in our textbook, he says, take the pill and take the prayer. And maybe at some point, your consciousness will evolve to a place where you don't need the pill anymore. But until that time, take the pill and take the prayer. So yes, while we work on our consciousness, absolutely, take your multivitamin or whatever it is you're taking, whatever modern science has brought to you as helpful, take it, absolutely. But hold it in your hand before you take it and say, I know God is the only power working through this, and it's working for my highest and greatest and most abundant expression of life, and it only does me good. Chug the pill. Right? And then move on, right? But see, the thing is, we want to equate that God's the power that's working through the pill or the Cheetos or the chocolate cake or whatever it is. See, like, I can't get behind chocolate cake could possibly be bad for me. I can't. I think God was having a really incredible day when he developed chocolate cake with chocolate frosting. It's like, whoa, God, great work. Great work, So if you're going to eat that cake, bless it. Blessed is the thing. Now, I know, people, look, you can pick up any magazine today and read an article about stress, right? Stress is the enemy. Stress is the enemy. Stress is the enemy. I was thinking, where does my stress come? I think my stress comes from information overload. I just have so much information, like we all do, coming at us all the time. If I get one more device, I swear I'll spontaneously combust, right? But our teaching is that our belief is our own. The most important conversation's taking place right here in our head. And what we say repeatedly, with feeling, over and over and over again, ultimately becomes true for us. Right? So if you believe, and really believe, like with all that feeling and emotion, I have high blood pressure. And you say that to yourself, say 100 times a day, and I got to get my medications, What you're doing is, now that may in fact be the earth plane experience. I'm not taking that away from you. I want you to have it if you want it. I really do. I want you to have it, right? But if you keep saying that, right, if you believe it, and believe it with a frenzy and a fury, then you're codifying that into your body. Because your body hears every word you say. Your body hears every word you say. Right? I think everybody needs healing in some way. I don't think there's anybody on the face of the earth that couldn't use some healing, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I'm remembering a priest I know of back east, and he has the gift of healing. He touches people and they get healed. That's pretty groovy, right? Isn't that cool? That's wonderful, right? But he says in his book, he said, look, through the grace of God, I touch people and they get healed. He says, but if they do not make the corresponding spiritual, mental, and physical changes to support that healing, it will very likely come back. So through the lens of science of mind now, why is that so? Because there's been no change in consciousness. He did like a little metaphysical poof, and you got a little grace. You got a little grace there, which is great. Okay, I'm better. I'm healed. But people want to be healed and go back to their old way of being. And one cancels out the other. Because your old way of being is what, in some way, contributed to the experience. Right? So the only place of blockage, of limitation, of the principal power and presence of God, or God's activity, the blockage or the limitation has to be in us. We're getting ready to take a group to Brazil to see John of God in the beginning of December. And down there in Brazil, in John of God land, they look at it like anything that needs to be healed is energy that's blocked within you. And when the energy gets unblocked, the natural result will be that a healing will take place. And so you see John of God, and you meditate, and you pray, and you do all these spiritual activities because you're just focusing, for the time that we are there, you're focusing specifically on healing. And all these different things that we do while we're there are to unblock the energy. And it makes sense to me, and I feel like it's completely in alignment with science of mind, that sometimes something needs to be healed spiritually before there can be a physical healing, or something needs to be healed mentally or emotionally before there can be a physical healing. You know, and it's not necessarily ours to say what. So we just go down there and do the work. But I like this idea. It makes sense to me, this idea about energy is just blocked. You know? And when the energy is unblocked, the natural life force within us takes over and we'll have healing. So before, you know, I know everybody would like to see healing in all these different places in the world around us. I know tons, with lots of opportunity. Huh? It's just amazing that we have lots and lots of opportunity. And I was thinking about this week I was thinking about the word salvation, which, you know, we've got to be saved from, you know. And I think what we need to be saved from is our own negative, limiting, unloving thinking. That's what salvation is from. You know, it's not from a power outside of us. It's from what we do to ourselves on the inside here. Because before anything heals out here in the outer world, Science of Mind teaches us that there first has to be healing in our own minds and in our own hearts. You know, so it's not like God cannot come up with a cure for Hep C, right? You know, it's like God's saying, it's not like God is saying, God, Hep C, this is really hard. I don't know what to do with this one. Holy cow, you really stumped me with Hep C, you know? It's like, no. I mean, you know, so where does that healing begin? Where does the cure for that experience happen? It first has to happen. First of all, there has to be an idea in mind. And then there has to be a collective agreement that now is the time this could be healed. Now is the time. You know, I mean, like, do we really need for one more person on the face of the earth to have breast cancer? No, we don't, right? I mean, that's like, people have had that experience. So now, if enough people could come into agreement about we are ready for the cure to come forward, the thing on earth that would heal people, if enough people agreed on that, that could actually happen. Because it's not like God says, oh, that one stumps me too. I've been good with a couple of things, but, you know, I can't do anything about that. That's a hard one, right? Because none of it, either God is God and God can take care of all of it, or there are things that are too big for God, in which case we are really in a lot of mushrooms. Yeah, that's what we're in. So again, in Science of Mind, we say, all right, we've got to take responsibility for our thoughts. Don't hear blame, hear responsibility, right? And that this is how we begin to take responsibility for our experience, right? Because I think we don't really believe, we don't realize how powerful our own minds are, especially in how they are shaping and molding what's unfolding in our own life. So we say, yes, that God is all power, all love, all light, and we, every one of us, we are extensions of that love, that power, that light. So God did not create an error condition, say some form of sickness, right? Human consciousness did, right? So any not loving creation is not of God. We have to get that. God does not send sickness. God does not send difficult circumstances. Anything not created by God, in the most absolute level, we teach is not actually real. The real us is spirit, is consciousness, is the love within us. That spirit, that consciousness existed before this earthly life. It will continue to exist when we leave this earthly expression. Right? So the real us is spirit, and that real us, there is an aspect of our being that cannot get sick. Right? So our body is not the real us. It's just an instrument of the real us. So the real us, remember, is incapable of illness. We get ill because we've probably identified with something that is capable of illness. You know, I am my body. Oh my God, my body, my body, my body. But see, the body follows the orders of the mind. And nothing actually originates in the body. So we want to heal our thinking, then our body will follow. Right? So great beings, spiritual and otherwise, I think, you know, we teach in the Science of Mind, they all have the same stuff. We all have the same stuff. The difference is these great beings who have preceded us here on earth, they're receptive to their own power. I think we have moments, but then we're scared. We're afraid of it, so we kind of squash it down. But if you want to be a part of something great that that has been and is taking place in the evolution of consciousness, if you want to be part of something great, then you need to be exposed to that again and again and again in its greatness. So like a few years back, a group from church, we went to Italy. And we saw the most amazing work by these Renaissance artists there. And a lot of them were all working around the same place at the same time. So they fed off of each other. They encouraged each other. And so it's not a hard jump for us to imagine, someone like Michelangelo sculpting or painting, and then going and hearing somebody great sing, and then going someplace else where somebody else did some other phenomenal form of art, hearing somebody play music, because all these great minds were feeding off each other. And I think we need to be in the stream of that. It's surprising to me when somebody tells me, oh, I act. And say, oh, that's great, you act. Have you seen this great play that, oh my God, it got all the awards and blah, blah. Have you seen this? No, I don't like to go to the theater. Well, didn't you just tell me you act? If you want to do that, you have to be in the stream of that greatness, right? It's just like if you want to write, you have to read really great books, not trash, okay? You have to read really, really great stuff if you want to write, so that you're like in that stream of consciousness of that greatness. I think that's how it works. And so if you want to heal, you need to be in that stream of consciousness where that is available, where that's possible, where you're reading about people who have had great, great healings in their life. I think we do a lot of stuff that messes with our own survival. You know what I mean? On Earth, we pollute externally, but don't kid yourself, we also pollute internally. Probably the reason we pollute externally is because we're so polluted internally. All right? And so, but there's just consequences for this. And those consequences are spiritual law. That's how that works. How many people do we know want to get their health back just so they can go back and live the way they were living before? Which, by the way, contributed to their current predicament. All right? So the thing is, if you learn what you're supposed to learn from something, it's never going to be like it was before. Right? Because consciousness within us is going to be changed. So spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, we have to change what needs to be changed and keep it changed. See, that is in fact getting the point, I believe. Changing what needs to be changed and keeping it that way. See, because I think spiritual truth is, in my presence as a child of God, whatever the error condition is, whatever the seeming sickness is not real. It does not exist. It has no power over me. So, no medicine to heal can come forward until we first have that thought in consciousness and we agree that it's time for that to burst forth, that we are ready for that to happen. When we, in Science of Mind, we often say that the one problem is the belief that we could be separate from God. Now, the truth is, big picture, you could not be separate from God, but because we are free thinkers, because we have free will, because God has endowed us with choice, we can think some really crazy stuff, can't we? We can really convince ourselves that in this area I'm separate, in this area I'm small, in this area I'm not much, in this area I'm no good. We can really, really believe that. And it's a funny thing about thought, because thought loves friends. Yeah, that you have that thought, and then it starts to welcome others. Hey, come on. Yeah, it's great here on the negative side of life. Yeah, things are always going wrong. So I think what we can do, quite simply, something we could practice right now, and this is pure science of mind, is to see other people and look through the appearance and tell ourselves, I want to see the divinity in this person. I want to see the spirit in this person. I want to see the love in this person, because that's what's real. And when we do that, that other person is actually healed. Because there's no thought in us that's saying, oh, they need to change, they need to be different, they're not okay the way they are. That we're just looking at them and seeing them as the perfect love of God, as their divinity, And what happens in that is that whenever you do that for someone else, you cannot help but get the grace from that. You get the spill off of that, so that in turn actually blesses you and lifts you up and raises you up, and you get healed. One of the great things you can do when you're working on trying to heal something in your own life is pray for other people who have the same thing. Because it gets the focus off you, but you're going to get the grace from it. You're going to get the grace from the realization that you look at people and beyond any external conditions, you know that there is a spiritual truth about them. What's that spiritual truth? That they are one with God, that they are whole and perfect and complete, that they are made in the image and likeness of the One. And what's true about them is true about us. Let's pray. So we turn our attention inward now for a moment to just remember that right here where we are, the fullness and the allness of God is. That we are surrounded and filled and blessed with God's presence. It's the very animating principle of our life. It guides us. It's the truth about us. And so I know we are also all connected with each other on the unseen side of life. And so I speak this word for us today, that wherever we're desirous of having healing in our life, we place that on the altar of consciousness. And I know for each and every one of us that with God, all things are possible. And so I know it all starts with an idea in mind, in our mind. And so we now have the belief that healing is available to us in any and every area of our life where we're desirous of that. That nothing is too difficult for God. Because Scripture says, with God, all things are possible. So I claim this is the truth for each and every one of us here today. So we include in our prayer our family members and friends and loved ones, and we remember that right where they are, God is. That they are surrounded and filled with God's Spirit, God's love, God's presence. We let our prayer be a blessing energy in the world around us. So all those things that pull at our attention, we say God is right there. Even in the midst of that, God is right there. As peace, as healing, as perfect understanding and reconciliation, as all needs met. We bless our church. We bless all churches everywhere. We bless synagogues and temples and mosques and ashrams, all paths to God. And I'm certain that we're blessed by being together today, that everyone gets raised up, that there is healing, that there is love, that there is peace of mind for everyone. And so with a full heart, I just release this word. I know it's done, and so it is. Together we all say, Amen.